Dr. Jude Miller is with us. Jude Miller Burke. She's a workplace psychologist and live on the deck with us this afternoon. We've all dealt with the messed up. We've all worked with them. We've been around them. But how do we know the one who's saying crazy things because he or she is about to be tossed from their job from the one who's saying crazy things but is full on crazy and might come back with a gun?
One of the first things you need to look for is a pattern of this kind of behavior. And my guess is that any employer that he worked with, the gunman worked with, had a big, long file on him. And it's very important to look for patterns, and companies need to have protocols in place to make referrals to the employee assistance programs. And I think the violence we're seeing, which really isn't a huge change from the 1980s. I mean, I know myself when I worked at Honeywell, dealt with a couple of murders in the workplace. Then I worked at United Health Group for 10 years, and that was our job, to go throughout the country and handle these kind of workplace violence settings. But each company needs to have protocols in place, and it's a fine line between protecting the privacy of the individual and also protecting the greater group of employees.
And I guess it would be illegal to discriminate against someone because he or she has filed a complaint, which this one did when he worked in Tallahassee, Florida. He filed a complaint. We know from open records that complaint was thrown out. He filed another complaint at this station. That report was thrown out. The activity of filing a complaint and it being thrown out is not supposed to be held against you.
Right, that's true. And I'm wondering, too, about family members and coworkers that could have made referrals for this individual to get some help and to possibly stop this kind of situation from happening.
Well, we know that when he was escorted from the building, we know from the general manager in June, 2 years ago, that then they were concerned because they brought in the police and they cleared some space and all the rest. It sounded like they were kind of watching him and worried about him for a while. But, 26, 27, now 28 months later, what can you do?
We are in great need of mental health services for so many people out on the streets and for so many people that can't afford insurance. And we need to, in my opinion, I assume that's what you asked me here for.
That's what you're here for.
My opinion is that we need more services to help people, more medical services, more mental health services. And closing those kind of services and putting people out on the streets where they don't have access to help is not good for our country or our companies.
We did this in the 70s. History is clear. We did it in the 70s when money was tight. We started locking up the mentally ill.
Right.
I'm not blaming the system for what this man did. I'm just saying that the reason that there are all these mentally ill patients on the street and mentally ill people in our prisons is because we made a decision that that's where they were going to put them.
That's very true. And I think that's when we saw a big shift in our country. And it's also important to refer to employee assistance programs to get people as much help as possible. And also, I would err on the side at this point of making notice to all the employees. Like, were the people that were out in the streets filming this segment this morning, were they notified that there had these warnings had come across to the company? And we all need to take measures to protect ourselves as good as possible, as well as possible in the workplace.
At a Chamber of Commerce live shot on a morning show in Roanoke, it's just impossible. Doctor, I wish I had a little more time. We have to hit a quick commercial break. I appreciate you coming in on short notice very much.